Welcome back to The Explainer. Today we are diving into a really fascinating, though honestly a bit unsettling, sociological phenomenon. We're looking closely at the recent wave of religious polarization and riots in the Indian state of West Bengal. Now, here is the core thesis we're going to be exploring today. According to some pretty extensive anthropological research, this violence, it's actually not a spontaneous eruption of ancient hatreds. Nope. Instead, it is a carefully manufactured, highly engineered sociological mechanism.
And that brings us to the central mystery of our explainer today. You see, for over 3 decades, West Bengal was largely immune to religious riots. Under the rule of the left-front government, the state operated on what researchers call a secular party society. Basically, your political party affiliation completely trumped your religious identity. But then almost suddenly, this state experienced a massive surge in primordial identity conflicts. So you have to ask, how does a historically secular space transform into a communal hotspot seemingly overnight?
Well, to figure that out, here is our roadmap for today. First, shifting politics. Second, manufacturing the divide. Third, the coevolution of extremes. Fourth, the post-truth machinery. And finally, shrinking secular spaces. Let's jump right in.
Starting with Section 1, Shifting Politics, and the big transition in Bengal.
Okay, so to understand the present, we really have to look at the historical baseline. We are looking at a massive transition here. We go from the left front's 34-year rule, which actively suppressed identity politics, to the rise of the Trinamool Congress, or TMC, in 2011, and then the subsequent surge of the BJP around 2014. If you look at the voting data on screen, you can physically see this rapid realignment. The left front forces totally collapse over time, while the BJP surges significantly, especially moving into those 2014 and 2016 elections. This isn't just a simple change in leadership, right? The data shows a massive, structural realignment of the electorate straight toward identity-based mobilization. And this shift brings us to a vital concept coined by researchers. It's called cultural misrecognition. Basically, when the TMC came to power, they replaced the old party society with this new, kind of hidden mechanism. The state started heavily patronizing religious and cultural expressions to consolidate support. So, for example, they started providing state honorariums for Islamic imams, while simultaneously handing out massive state grants for Hindu Durgosar festivals. Now, while that might sound inclusive on the surface, researchers point out that it inadvertently created a hypersensitive religious landscape. It made identity the absolute main currency of politics, completely diverting attention away from basic public service delivery.
Which brings us to Section 2, Manufacturing the Divide, where we look at how tactical, local riots actually happen.
Check out this timeline mapping out 4 distinct events analyzed in the source research. In January 2016, violence erupts in Kaliachak. By October, it hits Naihati Hajinagar. December saw clashes in Dulagar, and then by July 2017, Baduria Basirhat. What the field data reveals here is absolutely wild. Whether the initial spark was a dispute over extortion money or just a torn flag, the frequency of these localized clashes just rapidly escalated. The sparks were totally different, but the resulting fires engineered the exact same way.
So the crucial takeaway is understanding the actual anatomy of these events. The research breaks it down into a chillingly specific 3-step formula. Step 1, a hoax or highly emotional social media post goes viral. Step 2, organized external goons arrive. In fact, locals consistently reported that the primary violence was driven by outsiders with their faces covered. And Step 3, terrified local communities are basically forced to retreat into polarized camps just for their own safety. Listen, this isn't natural incompatibility. It's a calculated action relying on outside instigators to literally force a wedge between neighbors.
Moving on to Section 3, Co-evolution of Extremes. This is all about mirroring. To truly grasp this manufactured polarization, you have to understand the concept of mirroring. Hindu and Muslim fundamentalist movements in the region aren't operating in a vacuum. They are co-evolving and feeding directly off one another's aggression. The sources give us a very neutral, objective comparison of these parallel tactics. On one side, pro-Hindutva organizations use saffron flags, highly aggressive Ram Namathi rallies displaying weapons, and a persistent narrative that Hindus are in danger. And on the flip side, Islamic fundamentalist organizations utilize green flags, equally aggressive Muharram rallies, and a push for strict Sharia expansion. It's wild because both camps are using the exact same playbook of visual intimidation to completely shrink the moderate middle ground. A really key tool in this playbook is what historians call invented traditions. Both sides are basically taking peaceful historical practices and weaponizing them, or just importing entirely new rituals out of nowhere. We see the sudden introduction of aggressive mock stick fights or newly instituted Ganga Arati ceremonies in places where they historically never even existed. The sole purpose of these newly invented spectacles? To consolidate religious identity and force everyday communities to publicly pick a side.
This mapping here beautifully illustrates how Islamic and Hindu fundamentalism just explicitly mirror each other. You see these parallel structures popping up everywhere: everyday distancing, the rise of vigilantism, moral policing, and the deliberate, systematic destruction of shared, syncretic spaces by both extremes. It is literally a symmetrical machinery of division.
Okay, Section 4, the post-truth machinery. The digital accelerant.
So you might be asking, how does this machinery operate so fast? Well, the smartphone revolution essentially poured gasoline on these localized sparks. The researchers share this incredibly striking anecdote from a student who was asked about their constant smartphone use. The student simply replied, "Sir, we must consume the data we pay for." I mean, think about that. The introduction of incredibly cheap daily data plans, we're talking 1.5 gigabytes a day, created this massive captive audience. People weren't just casually accessing the internet. They were actively looking for rapid-fire, highly emotional content to just burn through their daily data allowance.
Now get this number, 50,000. According to investigative reports cited in the research, that is the estimated number of WhatsApp groups controlled by political IT cells in West Bengal alone. 50,000! Political actors knew exactly how to feed that public appetite for data. This infrastructure bypasses traditional media entirely. It creates a post-truth reality where highly emotional, often entirely fake news is pumped directly into the pockets of millions of voters every single day.
Let's look at exactly how this misinformation alters reality on the ground. The leaflets you see here were distributed by the Hindu Jagran Manch regarding the Kaliachak incident. Now, ethnographers actually found that the Kaliachak violence was, in reality, a local turf war between two competing Muslim organizations fighting over local control. But it was digitally and physically rebranded by propaganda, just like this leaflet, as a coordinated jihadi attack, claiming it was designed to turn Bengal into West Bangladesh. So a local criminal dispute was instantly manufactured into a grand, terrifying communal narrative. It's a real game changer.
Which brings us to our final part, Section 5, Shrinking Secular Spaces and the Ultimate Societal Cost.
What you're seeing here is the mathematical reality of everything we've just discussed. Look at that steep, sharp upward trend of riots in West Bengal spiking dramatically from 2015 into 2017. Guys, this isn't an anomaly. It is the intended output of the engineered sociological mechanism we've been tracking today. It's doing exactly what it was built to do. And the true societal impact is just devastating. Beautiful, shared, syncretic traditions where Hindus and Muslims coexisted are being intentionally erased. We are seeing everyday geographic distancing as communities just self-segregate out of pure fear. Vigilantism is becoming totally normalized. And ultimately, complex democratic politics are being entirely reduced to rigid, exclusionary, monolithic identities. The moderate middle is simply collapsing.
So, as we wrap up, I want to leave you with this final provocative thought. Based on the data and the ethnographic realities we've explored today, what happens to a democracy when objective facts and beautifully shared communities are entirely replaced by manufactured, highly emotional identity politics? It's a lot to think about, right? Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer, and I highly encourage you to keep questioning the narratives you see around you. See you next time.